The Sugar Show is back in town. Sean O'Malley will be fighting on UFC 264 July 10th against Louis Smolka. Yes, that's right. The former flyweight who was cut, then brought back, came back at bantamweight, had a middling success since he's been brought back, will take on the Sugar Show on July 10th. This is after O'Malley had that fantastic win over highly touted prospect and now maybe getting cut prospect Thomas Almeida. Matt, what do you think about this matchup? Because it certainly seems a little bit odd.
It does seem a little bit odd because when you hear Sean O'Malley's name right now, you think of a guy that the UFC really wants to push and they want to climb the rankings a lot quicker. However, this matchup would suggest that they want to still build him up slowly and move him along slowly, which I guess is the right way to do it. Like if you think about it, but that's not what the UFC has been doing as of late with, people they really want to put up to the top of the rankings. They want to get these guys and they seem to be fast tracking a lot of people, like especially the ones that they kind of like handpick as like their golden child, so to speak. Like they put them in fights that they probably shouldn't be in too soon. But I guess with Sean O'Malley, it kind of makes sense because we see him get hurt a lot, right? And he gets put on the shelf for longer than we'd like to see him be on the shelf. And, he comes back and he looks good. He like his poise and everything inside the cage when he's fighting is awesome. Like he is a guy that could very well be a champion in this division at some point in his career. And I guess just like the general reaction to this matchup was that people wanted to see him against a bigger name, against a higher ranked opponent. Me personally, though, I like the matchup. I mean, I just like it. I like Louis Smolka. I like the type of fighter he is. He's going to be scrappy. He's going to tell us a lot about where Sean is right now. So I think it's a good matchup. It's a winnable fight for Louis too. Like he's the type of guy that's super durable. He's got real crazy scrambles. He's really great off his back, and he can take a lot of damage too. So it's not going to be a boring fight by any means, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a boring fight, and it could easily be an excellent firefight. When Smolka is on, he's on. He's very good. He's got some, just great ground skills as well as some excellent striking. He's come into his own since his issues. When he was at flyweight, he had an issue with alcohol that really held him back for a while. He got his life together. Since then, he's looked much, much better, and we've seen him fall to bigger names, right, like Casey Kenny. A couple of more name brand opponents rather than just prospects. The most interesting thing, though, is that, as you mentioned, this is not what the UFC has been doing. The UFC has been kind of pushing, anyone that seems like a star, they've immediately been throwing them into the deep end and just hoping that they rise to the top. And we saw that with O'Malley, where, Chito Vera was able to land that kick that caused O'Malley to be injured, and that was that. And we also know he got hurt in the Andre Sukumtop fight, where had Andre really just not taken him down and been a little bit smarter there, probably would have gotten the win, right? Because O'Malley's leg was just messed up. But I like this matchup a lot, but I also think it is almost a step back from Thomas Almeida. And that's not a knock on Smolka. That's just more of a where we've seen O'Malley, compete in the past. This definitely seems like a step back, which doesn't make sense given what he did to Almeida. If he had barely scraped by with a split decision, if he had really struggled against Almeida in that fight, I totally get it. But now it makes sense to throw him into, right at the edge of that top 15 or maybe, 15, 14, that type of, scenario for a ranking. I don't know. I like it and I don't. It's going to be a fun fight. I think it could end up being a scrap, but I can also see O'Malley going out there, landing a big shot, KO and Smolka, and we're kind of like, all right, that was what we thought was going to happen. From a, how do you see this match going? Do you think that Smolka can compete with O'Malley the same way that, Vera could, or anybody like that?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I've just always been a fan of Louis though, so I'm kind of biased a little bit on that, but I think he can definitely hang with Sean. He's gonna make it an ugly fight for sure. He's gonna try to get in there, force some clinch, maybe try to get it to the ground and see what happens when it gets there. But he's so scrambly too, man. Like he just creates these awkward situations in all of his fights, pretty much all of his fights, right? And like I said a second ago, like he's a guy that's super durable. So if he does get in bad situations, he can take a lot of damage. I think the thing that favors Sean in this particular situation, though, is if he is mounting a lot of damage, Sean is super calculated in what he does. Like he doesn't get wild when he sees you're hurt. That was one of the things in the Almeida fight. He dropped him and didn't follow it up. Like he's a little bit too calm when he hurts his opponents. So that's one thing that I guess will favor him in this particular matchup, because when Lewis does get hurt, like he can create some wild moments in the heat of like moments of just survival and trying to get out of bad situations. So it'll be interesting to see how those sort of things play out if that's how the fight goes. But I think it'll be one of these fights that definitely, goes longer than it does shorter, and we'll see a lot of interesting scenarios pop up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if Smolka's chin holds up, and as you mentioned, when he gets hurt, that is very good that O'Malley, is more reserved in that regard, because he could easily create some kind of scramble and get you in a wild submission out of nowhere, even when he's hurt. We've seen Smolka do that type of stuff before. Mm-hmm. So it should be a good fight for as long as it lasts. My fear here is that O'Malley's range and his precision is just going to be too much, and is going to, kind of put Smolka out, as we've seen happen a couple of times in the past. He's at bantamweight now, so he's got a little bit stronger chin, one would hope. He's not pushing his body as much to get down there, but I still think O'Malley can shut the lights off. So I'm hoping that you are correct, and that is a longer fight rather than a shorter one, and that we end up getting a fun scrap for the ages. Because on paper, right, if you look past O'Malley's previous opponents and what Smolka, has been able to do when he has had success in there, it should be a great fight. So let's hope for that. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. Let us know how you feel about this potential matchup. Is this who you want to see O'Malley go against next? Is this who you want to see Smolka go against next? Right? And what happens if O'Malley wins or loses? Who do you want to see from him then? With that in mind, I don't know if there's much more to say here, except,
I mean, at the end of the day, it is another person. It's another opponent for Sean O'Malley who's headlined a card in the past, I guess. So that's something. That'd be 2 in a row. So some people forget Louis Smolka headlined a card. So just got to remind that.
There you go.